Welcome to the oldest spiritual podcast,
the Bhagavad Gita Podcast.
setting the scene of the Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter, where Krishna and Arjuna were facing the armies in the midst of the battlefield, and Arjuna lost all his inspiration to fight. He completely forgot who he is, and then he took shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, and he prayed, "Please instruct me, please, I don't know what to do, I need your help, I need your guidance." And this is where the Bhagavad Gita gets interesting. The Bhagavad Gita is 5,000 years old. The original spiritual podcast was an interview, a divine conversation, question and answers with Krishna and his dear friend and later on disciple Arjuna. And that we can understand the Bhagavad Gita, we can't just understand and accept one part. No, we have to understand and accept the whole book. The Vedic texts, Veda means knowledge, they're so precise, they can really help us understand who we are. Everything we would like to know, we can find in the Vedas, and even more. The Mahabharata, compiled by Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva knew now we are at the age of Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel, hypocrisy, the metal age, the dark age, the age of ignorance, where people are very forgetful. So Vyasadeva, he compiled the Vedas before transmitted by hearing, by speaking and listening, wrote it down for us that we can access this knowledge in our fallen society. So Vyasadeva also wrote the Mahabharata. Maha means big, the great Bharat. Bharat is a name of a king, of the ruler of the earth. Bharatvarsha means actually the whole earth, not just India. Nowadays we think it's India. No, in these times, the history would say otherwise, but in these times, we had a big leadership controlling the whole world, and we had smaller kings all around. The way we are taught in school about our history, according to the Vedas, is completely wrong. 5,000 years ago, the Kali Yuga started, where we degraded ourselves. We couldn't remember things. Imagine, I'm from Germany now, I will conquer another country, and then we write our own history. We will explain how we conquered this other country and how great Germany is. So then we alter history. And then 100 years, 1,000 years, 5,000 years later, people will read, oh, Advaita Simha, he was a big conqueror, he conquered the world and so on. But actually it was not true. Just a certain degree maybe was true. So we don't know what really happened. And many historians, they say actually what we teach our children in school, most of it is not really 100% true. Or many things are discovered nowadays where you get your whole worldview upside down. Because there's so many things happening in this world we can't understand. And the Vedas always gave us a knowledge much higher than anything else, about astrology, astronomy, about how karma works, how children come into life, how it looks inside the womb. Imagine that. Nowadays scientists, they can figure it out, but in this time, they already knew. They could tell us how to fight, how to work, how to build buildings. I mean, we have these high advanced civilizations where we know nobody can explain how they built what they built. Because in this time, civilization was much more advanced than nowadays. We think we have the microphone, we have the camera, we have our smartphones and our electrical cars, and we are so advanced. But this is not advancement, because we're using or misusing this material energy. We are so depending on things from the outside that we can live. Imagine you have no smartphone anymore. The whole world would stand still. No smartphones, no internet. In this time, this was not even needed. There was natural wealth. when you read the Vedas, when you read the Mahabharata, you can connect with these personalities. All of a sudden you read about them. It's not just you read The Lord of the Rings and some fantasy novel and it's nice and you can connect with them but you read it maybe once or twice and it gets boring. But these stories you can read again, again, and again, and again. Because these personalities, you can connect with them. They are spiritual transcendentalists. What they say uplifts your whole being, your body, your mind, your soul. And it really helps you to connect with them. And the more you read about them, you realize they are real. Like, I can tell you not anything, right? You have to experience it for yourself. Read the Mahabharata. It's so amazing. I remember this Eric von Däniken. I watched him 20 years ago. He said, yeah, this is the aliens, the UFOs described in the Mahabharata, all these wars, all these devatas, the demigods. Yeah, because in these scriptures, I mean, many people think nowadays Hinduism means they worship many gods. Yeah? But, I mean, I'm not a Hindu. I'm following the Vedic tradition. And in all the Vedic scriptures, it is said there's only one supreme person, one creator. Yeah, there's many helpers. Like, imagine you the president, yeah, or you the king. You have your ministers. You have so many people helping you to rule the kingdom, yeah? And they are empowered by you to perform their tasks. But they are not the king. You're the only king. Yeah? So in the same way, the devatas or the demigods, they're not gods. They are also living beings. But they are entrusted that they can rule the whole universe. Because God himself, he's not involved with all the small details. For example, Agni Dev, yeah? The god of fire, he helps us to digest our food. We have King Indra, he brings the rain. I mean, we speak about gods in so many traditions and so many cultures. Nowadays, it's forbidden to speak, even think about it. But it was always there. Do you really think people just made it up in their minds? Do you really think only planet Earth is the only planet where people live? According to Vedas, we have 8,400,000 species of life. 8 million are in the animal kingdom, aquatics, beasts, insects, birds. 400,000 are human forms of life. Planet Earth is one of 400,000. There's so many planets in this universe, and they're all populated. It says even the sun, they're living beings. We can't see them, we can't perceive them. We can't go into the sun because we would burn. But they have a body that they can live on the sun planet, on the moon planet. Our perception of reality is very small. Yeah. We believe whatever we hear, whatever we see, whatever the news tells us. To experience spiritual reality, knowledge, you have to hear from someone who sees the truth. So that's why we have the scriptures, because these personalities, they had a bigger vision. Most of them are trikalakya, means they can perceive present, past and future. We can't perceive present, past and future. Even to be in the present, it's very difficult. And these personalities, they gave us the Vedas, especially this one person, Vyasadeva. And he was an empowered incarnation of the Lord to write down the Vedic literatures. I know it sounds like fiction and fantasy, and if you're not familiar with this topic, it might be too mind-blowing. I can really relate to this. I never had a problem with it. The moment I started reading this stuff, I was like, whoa, I was always looking for that. This knowledge could really transform myself. I never had a doubt because I could see everything about the philosophy, about the spiritual process, about my relationship to God works like a science. You have a process, then you follow the process, and you have a result. And I could see it in my own life. I could see it in so many other lives. So I thought, if this works, if this is true, what about the rest? We say there's Krishna or Vishnu. He's the supreme God. But then we have also Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Yeah? And many Hindus, they say no. It's like Trinity. They're all the same person. But when you go deep in the Vedic knowledge, you will see there's only one supreme, one candle. He lit the other candles. Yeah. So, but Krishna is the first. Then from Krishna comes Lord Vishnu. From Vishnu comes all the other avatars. And Vishnu appears in many yugas, in many millennia, in many ages to give us transcendental knowledge, to help us to come back in his eternal abode. So Lord Vishnu, he manifests Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma, he is the creator of the universe. Because the spiritual realm where Lord Vishnu resides, it is not in this universe, it's outside in the spiritual world. So he creates Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma, he creates the universe. Yeah. So if we speak about the creator God, it's not God. It's not the God we think. It's Lord Brahma. He created the material world under the guidance of Lord Vishnu. And we have Lord Shiva. So when Vishnu comes in contact with the material world, he manifests as Shiva. Yeah, because he's always pure. He never touches this material world. So Lord Shiva, he is the god of destruction. Brahma, he creates. Vishnu, he maintains. And Lord Shiva, he destroys. Because this universe, this creation, gets manifested and after a certain time unmanifested. It goes back into the body of God. It's not that the earth just is there for 12,000 years and there's a few human beings. The evolution theory, yeah, that we come from the insects and from the bacteria and from water, and then we were monkeys, and then from the monkeys we became Homo erectus, and then we became humans, and now we are the peak of civilization. According to Vedas, everything was created at once. Lord Brahma, he created his sons, and he populated the universe. And even the animals came from them. Everything came from them. And I know it sounds really fictional, but if we just be open for a moment, yeah? Because what do we really know? What do I really know? If we say, no, this is all nonsense. There's so many people before us, great saints, great personalities, who lived this knowledge, who gave us this wisdom. And we say, no, they're all nonsense. They're all completely in illusion. It's all not true. Who are we to decide? But what I can offer you is, start the process yourself. Question everything and read about the history given by the Vedas. When you read about it, all of a sudden, everything makes so much more sense. And especially, they can describe everything you can dream of. Everything is in the Vedas written. Now you don't know about the Vedas, obviously it's difficult to connect with it. But if you read about it, you will know who you are, you will know who everyone is, how the nature works, the material elements, what is the soul, what is God, how the planets works, how the planets are influencing you. Everything in the minute detail is described in the Vedas. So this was just a small introduction, just to get, probably you need a whole life to explain what is in the Vedas, and I also didn't read them myself, just partially. The Bhagavad Gita, it is said, is the essence of all Vedic scriptures, because the Vedas usually are spoken by someone, about someone or something, or about God. But the Bhagavad Gita, from the 100,000 verses in the Mahabharata, 711 verses are the Bhagavad Gita, and most of these verses are spoken by Lord Krishna. So this knowledge is spoken by the Lord himself. Can you imagine that God, Krishna, speaks to you directly? Just for a moment, be open. What if this is true? Yeah. I always say, even if it is not true, The wisdom and the knowledge inside still works. But what if Krishna is real? What if there's more to reality than you might know and think it is? Yeah, with this mood, we should open the Bhagavad Gita. We can approach the Bhagavad Gita. We can't just accept some parts. Like nowadays, yoga teachers, they read the Bhagavad Gita and then they accept some portion of it, and the other portion is, it's maybe too much. No, you have to accept the whole text. I implemented this knowledge now since 12 years. I saw hundreds of people who do the same. And everyone gets the same results. Everyone gets free from fear, anxiety, from lust, from desires, from unwanted things, so many blockages we have in life and so many misconceptions. Yeah. All of these people I met, they are peaceful, they are happy, they are in harmony, they're devotional, they are humble, they're tolerant. All the good qualities manifest in them because they become God conscious. Yeah. And none of them say that any other religion, any other worship of God is less or is nonsense or criticize them. No. Readers of the Bhagavad Gita, readers or people who can connect to God on a deep level, they see God everywhere in anyone. And God gave us knowledge in many various ways, not just in the Vedas, according to time, place, and circumstances. So we should never criticize another process. Rather, be open for it. Be happy for the other people that they have their worship of God. It's so important. And everyone who has this connection with God, these people are always happier. They're more successful in life. They have not so much fear and anxiety. Their whole life is so different, especially in difficult times. When you connect with God, then everything is a miracle, right? Okay, so now I want to introduce the first chapter. The Mahabharata describes many stories about the demigods, about kings and side stories, and you can learn so much, every aspect in life. If you, as a small child, start reading the Mahabharata, I know so many Indians, they're completely different. They understand how this world works. Because in the Mahabharata you find everything you need to know. But the whole purpose of the whole Mahabharata, 100,000 verses, the biggest poem in history, the whole purpose was to introduce the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. There were two parties, the Pandavas and the Kurus, dynasties. Everything started with three brothers, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura. Vidura, he was the son of a maid. The father was a king, but he was not allowed to be the next king because he was not fully pure in the lineage of the kings. We had Pandu, the second brother, and Dhritarashtra, the first brother. The first brother, Dhritarashtra, he was born blind. So they said, how can he rule the kingdom? He's blind. So the kingdom came to Pandu. And Pandu, he was the father of the Pandavas, the great Pandava kings. One of them is Arjuna. Yudhishthir, the oldest. The second one is Bhima. Third one Arjuna. And then we have Nakula and Sahadev. And these five brothers, they are the most amazing persons you can ever read of, you can ever hear of. If you hear the Mahabharata, it's like mind-blowing. The way they act, the way they talk, the way they behave, that depth of righteousness and spirituality and following their duty. You will never find personalities like this nowadays. They're not existing anymore. But these personalities, they are so divine. So we have the Pandavas. So Pandu, he became the king. Yeah? But he was also kind of more advanced. So he lived very simple. He almost renounced his kingdom. So he lived in the forest. At a certain point, Pandu, he died. And the Pandavas were the righteous heir of the throne. But they were too young. So Dhritarashtra, the blind brother, he took over the kingdom. Because Vidura, he was not qualified. Because he was born by a Shudrani, by a servant. So he couldn't get the kingdom. Funny is that Vidura, he was the most qualified person actually. He was so spiritual, transcendental, full of knowledge, but externally he was not qualified. So for him there was no way for him to rule the kingdom. So Dhritarashtra, he took over the kingdom till the Pandavas, his nephews, will be old enough. So Dhritarashtra had 100 sons, and his firstborn was Duryodhan. And Duryodhan was evil personified. He is an expansion of Kali. And we have this Kali Yuga mentioned, and Kali, he controls the Kali Yuga. So before the Kali Yuga started, Kali already incarnated here, to destroy religious principles. So Kali and his associates, they came into the Kuru dynasty. In this time, the earth became very heavy. So Mother Bhumi, earth personified, she went to Lord Vishnu and she asked for help. And Vishnu said he will appear before the Kali Yuga to destroy all the demonic forces on earth, to relieve the earth and to re-establish the principles of religion. Krishna always appears to help his devotees to annihilate the demons and to re-establish religious principles. Especially, he knew in the Kali Yuga we will be so degraded, we need this knowledge right now, to guide us through this dark period. So then, Vishnu sent the devatas, the demigods, to appear as well in his lineage, in his dynasty. So we had the Kurus, the demonic forces, and we had the Pandavas, the divine forces, so to say. And Duryodhan, he was very envious, he was very evil and full of greed and pride. All the negative qualities were manifest in Duryodhan. And he wanted the kingdom so badly. And his father Dhritarashtra, he also wanted the kingdom for his sons. He never wanted the Pandavas to become king. So the Pandavas, at one point, were facing Duryodhan in a gambling match. Because Duryodhan knew Yudhishthir, the firstborn, the rightful heir of the kingdom, he wanted to defeat him in a gambling match because he knew that he will never say no. If he would offer him a gambling match or a fight, he will be righteous and he will follow his duty as a warrior, as a kshatriya, as a king. So then they cheated and they betrayed him and took away his whole kingdom. So the gambling match was the rule: whoever loses the match has to go to the forest in exile for 13 years. So the Pandavas had to go for 13 years. But after this 13 years, when he came back, he was supposed to rule the kingdom. So he went to Duryodhan and he said, okay, now it's time for me to become king. And Duryodhan, he said, no chance, you will not be king. I will be the king. Then Yudhishthir said, okay, look, you my cousins, I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to have any quarrel. You're my family, I love my family. So just we are kshatriyas, we are warriors, we are kings. So we need to rule something. We can't just live in the forest. It's our duty to have some area what we can rule, to protect. So he asked him for 5 small villages. And he said, you can have the whole kingdom, I don't care. If you're happy, just have the kingdom. But give us 5 villages for the 5 brothers. And Duryodhan, what he said, I will not give you even a kingdom where I could put the head of a pin, of a needle inside. Not even that I will grant you. Imagine that. So there was no way that the Pandavas could turn away. They were supposed to rule the kingdom. Not Duryodhan, not Dhritarashtra, not his sons. That's when the war was happening. When Duryodhan completely neglected his cousins. And Krishna, of course, he arranged everything because he wanted to speak the Bhagavad Gita. He wanted to give us the chance to hear this knowledge. And Krishna, he tried actually everything to convince Duryodhana, to convince the Kurus, to find a solution. Till the end, he tried. But it was not possible. So the great battle of Kurukshetra was supposed to happen. 2 armies. And before the battle was starting, Duryodhana and Arjuna visited Krishna because Krishna, he had a really big army. And Duryodhana, he wanted this army because he knew if he has a bigger army, he will win the war. So Krishna asked Arjuna, I will not fight in the war, he said. I will be there, but I will not fight, I will not participate, because they knew when Krishna fights, it will be difficult. So Krishna said, I will not fight. But Arjuna, his dear friend, he knew, no, I will go wherever Krishna goes. Krishna, I choose you. So he chose Krishna, and Duryodhana got the army. So the Kurus had more warriors already, but the Pandavas, they had Krishna, God himself on the battlefield. But Krishna, he didn't want to fight. Yeah, because he is God, he will not fight. He will not interfere. So in both armies, Krishna and Arjuna, and you might ask, why does God want to have a war? Why all these things happening? Even if there would be no Krishna, take Krishna out, there would still be the war. Yeah. Even if there's no God, there are still wars in this world. According to Dharma, it was supposed that Arjuna, his brother Yudhishthira, will rule the world, not Duryodhana. And we don't see the higher picture, but this was demonic forces. They had to be destroyed to re-establish religion. We think in a bodily concept, we think, how can we speak about death so easily? Because they are not dying. Their bodies are dying, but their soul is eternal. You get another body. And they die on Kurukshetra, on the holy place of Dharma. When you leave your body in Kurukshetra in a war, you will attain the higher planetary systems. And Krishna was on the battlefield. So everyone who sees Krishna in the moment of death, he also gets liberated. So there was no worries. Then Arjuna and Krishna were on the chariot. And right before the battle, the conch shells were already blowing. The battle was supposed to happen. And then Arjuna said to Krishna, because Krishna was his charioteer, imagine that, the Lord serves Arjuna, becomes his charioteer, Parthasarathi. Because the Lord, believe it or not, he drives all our chariots. He's always helping us. He's providing everything. Yeah. So he is actually allowing us to ride on the chariot he controls. Then Arjuna asked him, please show me the battlefield. Please, I need to see before I fight. Because I fight my family, my teachers, my uncles, my fathers, my grandfathers, my cousins, my friends. I can't just fight them, I need to see them first. For one moment, please, Krishna, drive me there. So Krishna drove Arjuna in the midst of both armies. And then Arjuna he saw his teacher, he saw his grandfather, all his friends. And imagine for a moment, you have to fight. There's no way out of the situation. You have to fight. And you face the same situation. You have to fight all your loved ones, basically. What you gonna do? And Arjuna, he's a great soul, a great devotee. Very transcendental. But in this moment, he got bewildered. Because he identified himself with the body, with himself, with the false ego, with his family. And he started to shake. He started to cry, to sweat. He couldn't breathe. He was like completely paralyzed. And he said, Krishna, how can we fight? This is my family. How can I fight my loved ones? And if we fight, The whole dynasty will be destroyed. So many women will be without husband. Yeah. And if the women are alone, how are we gonna establish religious principles? How are we gonna save Dharma? And we see this nowadays. Arjuna already knew if the dynasty is destroyed, yeah, there will be, nowadays we have people get married, they get children, they separate, yeah, or they get unwanted children, they give them away, called Vana Shankara, unwanted population. In these times, this was not happening. Everything was in unity. The man played his role, the woman played his role. They worked together as one entity, yeah, to create good progeny. Yeah. The whole culture was a culture of love and service and devotion and dharma, righteousness, following your duty, religious principles. And Arjuna knew because in this Kurukshetra war were millions of people, and if they all die, all these women would be without husbands, all these children would be without a father, and this will destroy the whole society. So he said, Krishna, how can I fight? If I would win the kingdom, how can I enjoy the fruits of the kingdom if everyone else is dead, if the whole dynasty is destroyed, if there will be no religion anymore? How can I fight? Yeah. Even if I win the kingdom, I have to kill everyone. And if I don't fight, then my family, my friends will die and suffer. So whatever I do, there will be no positive outcome. So I can't fight Krishna. What must I do? And in this moment, he surrendered. Actually, he surrendered later. But in this moment, he said, Krishna, I lost all my faith, all my strength. Please tell me what to do. The best would be if I would become a saint and a yogi and just go to the forest and renounce everything. Yeah, like our situation, right? We don't know what to do in life. Did you ever suffer? Did you ever came to the point where you don't know where to go? Where nothing left? Yeah. Where you come to a moment where you just pray, God, please help me. Please, I beg you, please help me. This was Arjuna in this moment. And then Krishna, the first chapter stopped, then the second chapter started, and Arjuna, all of a sudden, he listens, and Krishna, he tells him, wait a minute, what's wrong with you? Shouldn't you know your dharma? You're a kshatriya, you're a warrior, you're supposed to fight. You're here now on the battlefield. Yeah. Why don't you fight? And why identify with the body? We're all eternal. And Krishna starts speaking. And then Arjuna says at one point, Krishna, I'm your soul surrendered unto you. Whatever you say, I will do. And then he says, but I will not fight. And this is so us. My dear God, I will do everything what you want. Please help me. But still let me do my own thing. Yeah. We're still not fully ready to surrender. So, in this midst of the battlefield, Arjuna surrendered to the Lord. And then the Lord starts instructing him. Because nowadays everything is asat. Everything is not eternal. We think we will die at one point. Arjuna thought, they will all die. I'm the body, they are the bodies. He lost his spiritual vision. So Krishna instructed him. And he told him, there's no need for grief, no need to lament, no need to be sorry for anything. Because you are not the body. All these souls here on the battlefield, they lived before, and after they die, they will still live in another body. They are eternal. There's no death for the soul. Yeah? And then he starts the whole Bhagavad Gita, starting with the second chapter, explaining who we are. If you read this, if you lost someone in your life, Yeah. Sometimes I meet people, they just tell me, my husband just died from cancer, and I give them the Bhagavad Gita, read the second chapter. And it's just solace. If you know you're not this body, that you're eternal. Of course, Krishna is not promoting that we can kill. There's still reactions. But in this case, if there's a war, if there's soldiers, they fight for their country nowadays. But most of these wars are out of false ego, of greed, or because of money. This situation was different in the Mahabharata. It was out of dharma, out of duty. And Arjuna, he lost everything he knew. And he represents us. When I read this the first time, I also thought like, how can he fight? It's not righteous, you can't fight. Because Arjuna was a great devotee, he was compassionate, he was full of love and devotion. How can he fight? But also, he was in ignorance. Because he identified everyone and himself with this body. And the first chapter starts with Dhritarashtra speaking. And he asks Sanjaya. Sanjaya was his counselor. He was a disciple of Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedas. So he got a spiritual vision. Sanjaya, he could see the battlefield from far away. And Dhritarashtra, he was blind. So he asked, Dhritarashtra vacha dharmakshete kurukshetre samavita yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kim a kurvata Sanjaya. He asked Sanjaya, what did my sons and the Pandavas, what did they do on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? What a question! They're gonna fight, right? Because he was still anxious, he knew it's a holy place, and Krishna is there, and the Pandavas are there, and they're so righteous, and my sons, they're so evil actually. So he knew that there might be a chance that he will not win the war. And he was anxious that they not fight, because he wanted his sons to win. He wanted his sons to become the ruler of this world. He was not just blind in the outside, he was also blind within. So the whole Bhagavad Gita starts with Dharmakshete Kurukshetra. Yeah. What did they do on this holy place of pilgrimage? The place of Dharma, the place of religion. And then Krishna instructs Arjuna in the whole knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. Almost 700 verses. He explains him everything he needs to know to live successful in his life. At the end, he tells him, now I told you all this knowledge. Now do what you want with it. You decide. You have your free will. I will not tell you what to do. I told you many ways to attain perfection, to attain liberation, to become free of fear, anxiety, and worries, of death. Yeah? But now, you do what you would. You do what you do. It's your decision. And then he says, because you're my dear friend, I give you 2 more instructions. Yeah. The first one was, please always think of me. Man mana bhavat mat bhakto. Madhyachimam namaskuru. Always think of me, worship me, pay your obeisances. Always remember me. And the second, and then he said, then you will certainly come to my eternal kingdom. Because you're my dear friend. Yeah? You're my friend, Arjuna. So we have to become Krishna's friend. That's the secret. If we don't want to become his friend, then he will stay back. If we want to be Krishna's friend, he will approach us in the same mood. And then the most important instruction, Sarva Dhamam Parityacha Mamikam Sharanam Vracha Aham Tvam Sarva Pabebhyo Mokshya Ishyami Ma Suchaha. Sarva Dhamam Parityacha, he said to him, after he instructs him about Dharma, about his duty, about religion, he says, just give up all Dharma. Give up all religion. Yeah. Just surrender unto me. Everything else is useless. It should help you to come to the point to surrender, to give everything to the Lord. Your heart, your whole being. Not just your words, your body, your mind, your soul. Surrender fully. Yeah. And then he said, I will take away all your sinful reactions, all your negative karma, all your positive karma. I will take it away. And I tell you, if you surrender to the Lord, everything will become light. All this heaviness of material energy will be gone. I tell you from my own experience. And he said, Ma Suchaha, do not fear. There's no need to fear. I'm there for you. But anyways, I told you everything, and not just now do whatever you want. So the whole Bhagavad Gita starts with Dharma, with religion, and it ends with Dharma. But Krishna tells us, just give it up. All your religious concepts. Because nowadays we have so many quarrels and fights. And this is Duryodhan, Kali, who divides us with religion, with duties, with countries, with colors, with nations, with language, with everything is there to separate us. That's why Krishna says, just give it up. Surrender unto me. I have so many friends who try to surrender to the Lord. And we would not be friends if there would be no Krishna, because we have nothing in common. But they're all my friends now, because the Lord is in the center. There's no division anymore. Kali, the age of Kali, can't influence us, because we focus on the same goal. We all want to attain pure love of Godhead. I prepared a lot to speak, and I have to tell you, it's really weird just to talk to camera for 1 hour. It's easier to speak with someone or to an audience. I hope I could somehow give you a short overview of the Bhagavad Gita. My heart is really into this topic, especially the first chapter, because I can really identify with Arjuna. I don't know what to do in life. I need help. But still, I don't want to fight. I'm not ready. And so, when we turn to Krishna, he helps us to be ready. Because Krishna tells Arjuna, don't go in the forest. He tells you, don't leave your job, don't leave your life, don't leave your friends and your family. Just do whatever you do, but do it for me. Connect with me. Forget about everything else. Just bring me into your life. Bring Krishna into your life. Then everything will be perfect. Because these people on the battlefield were already supposed to die. With Arjuna or without Arjuna. But Arjuna could decide that he works for the Lord. Because the Lord, he liberated everyone on this battlefield. No one really died. At the end of the Kurukshetra war, I think only 12 people survived. For millions of people. But they all got liberated because the Lord was there, and it was on the holy place of Kurukshetra. And I know it's a difficult topic. How can you speak about that? How can you promote war? I'm not promoting war. It's about the principle of surrendering to the Lord. If it's in a war, if it's in your job, in your family life, just bring Krishna into your life. This is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. And to understand the rest of the Bhagavad Gita, first we need to understand this first chapter, this mood of Arjuna, who lost all his faith. And then slowly, in the beginning of the second chapter, he surrenders. When we come to this point, I was begging Krishna. I was suffering. I was a heroin addict. I was in jail. My life was miserable. I had lots of money and friends and fun for many years. But at one point, I want to stop. I want to become God conscious, but my habits were so strong. They always put me down. And I prayed like blood in my tears, really. Every day I prayed, Krishna, please help me. And I felt this mood of Arjuna. And I could feel how my heart gets purified just by these prayers, by these deep surrendering, by these moments where we feel completely lost. Because everything what happens to us doesn't really matter. Everything is temporary in this world. And Krishna knows that. And Krishna only wants you to turn towards him. Finally, after so many lifetimes, he comes back to me. He wants to come back to me. And this whole creation is only there for us that we come to this point. It's not there for us to enjoy, to have fun. Of course, the nature of the soul is to be happy. Yeah. But to be happy with the material world is very difficult because it's so temporary. We have to learn to be happy with Krishna eternally. I tell you, whenever I turn to Krishna, my life is blissful. Whenever I turn to the material energy, I suffer. There's a small portion of happiness and a big portion of suffering. But whatever is connected with God, it's always joyful, it's always blissful. I hope I could somehow bring you closer to the topic of the Bhagavad Gita. Next week I have a special guest, one of my best, or the best friend, who also lived like me in a temple as a monk. We studied together the Bhagavad Gita, and now we try to live as householders, as family men, live the Bhagavad Gita. I will have more speakers sharing their knowledge. Sometimes you have to tolerate me. It's an amazing topic to really connect with this knowledge. Start reading the Bhagavad Gita. Check the description section below. There's an Amazon link. Buy it in your country. Get a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. And once in a lifetime, read this book. There will be so much transformation in your life. Everything you need, you will find in the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you so much for your kind attention. If there's any questions, please comment below. If you have your own realizations, if you say, hey, Advaita, whatever you said is nonsense, then also comment it below. Let's have a conversation. Let's be real. Let's be open. Let's find unity. Why always fighting? I respect whatever you believe. I respect. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Chai. Lord Krishna and Arjuna's podcast Ki Chai. Please bless me that I can be steady and share with you every week another video. Let's go this journey together. Let's see what wonderful will come out of it. By listening to the Bhagavad Gita, everything will be so wonderful. It said this knowledge should be joyfully performed and is everlasting. There's no loss. This is the king of all knowledge, the king of all education. It's the highest form of religion because it gives you a direct perception of the self by realization. You can realize this knowledge by yourself, but you have to do the work. All the best. Hare Krishna. Namaste.